some of the things that, was said about Snoop, that Pac felt about him. And out of all the outlaws, he knew that I'm the one that's not going to be afraid to say it in front of Snoop. So he probably played on that. And when the first I said, Snoop, it's kind of messed up that now everybody, showing Pac love, but, Pac was hurt. What happened,
I'm Snoop Dogg. I never had any with anybody from the East. I'm here to make good music. That's what I signed my contract to Death Row Records for, to make good music and perform and put out good albums. Hurt nobody.
Recent allegations have emerged suggesting that Snoop Dogg may have been involved in 2Pac's M. This infamous crime has captivated fans for decades with its enigmatic nature, but it appears that the mystery has finally been resolved. However, the question remains, was Snoop Dogg truly implicated in 2Pac's death, and could he be facing legal consequences for it?
What you mean when you say that he'd still be in prison?
Because when Snoop got convicted for the
Snoop Doggy Dogg, a judge in Los Angeles refused today to drop charges against him.
This isn't the first time such accusations have surfaced, indicating a recurring suspicion surrounding Snoop's alleged connection to the tragic event.
I think it was Sean Dog. Yeah, it was. Got through the sign to them. They'd start chasing him in the Jeep, I got.
Seems like everyone's jumping on the podcast bandwagon these days, but not all shows are just about Bitcoin or random stuff. Dave Mays, co-founder of Hip Hop Weekly, is hosting a podcast called Collect Call with Suge Knight, the music mogul who's currently behind bars. And guess what? They're tackling some pretty interesting topics. In their latest chat, Suge Knight dropped a bombshell, suggesting that Snoop Dogg might have had a hand in 2Pac's M back in 1995. He mentioned that he wants to have a serious talk with Snoop about it because 2Pac had treated him well, putting him on All Eyes on Me and being real with him. Knight even paid Snoop's bail during his M case in the 90s, so he feels like they need to talk it out.
So now they got a warrant for the liquor for him. Naturally, who the first person they call, who didn't say, oh, I don't want to get involved in that, but that's after fact. Dove in.
Knight's suspicions were sparked by an anecdote from Warren G on yet another podcast. Warren revealed that he convinced Snoop to skip a trip to Vegas with 2Pac and Knight. Instead, Snoop came to Warren's place in L.A. Later, when news came in that 2Pac had been shot, Snoop rushed to Vegas. Warren recalls hearing the whole thing over the phone and witnessing Snoop's reaction, which made Knight raise some questions about what Snoop knew or didn't know about that night. In response, Knight remarked, "The only way you, Snoop, would have a Nextel radio is if you were at the fight with us and had a security detail. But since he didn't have any security detail, why would he have a radio? Why would he be listening to a play-by-play?" He claimed Snoop kicked him out and then came to the hospital. Knight added, "But Snoop never showed up at the hospital, period." Currently, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis remains the sole suspect in the nearly 30-year-old investigation. He entered a plea of not guilty in early November and is scheduled to face trial in Nevada. Suge Knight also brought up more insights into the 90s West Coast hip-hop scene, emphasizing his significant involvement in Snoop Dogg's legal matters a while back. On a November episode of Collect Call with Suge Knight. On February 6th, Knight stirred controversy on his Collect Call podcast by accusing Diddy, Dr. Dre, Russell Simmons, and the late Andre Harrell of engaging in same-S relationships while hiding them behind public appearances with women. Snoop Dogg caught wind of these accusations and responded on Instagram, expressing his intention to keep Suge Knight in his prayers. He wrote, "SMH, I'm praying for that brother that he finds peace." In response, Suge Knight posted a screenshot of Snoop's comment on Twitter, challenging him to provide evidence to support his denial. He wrote, "Show the agreement or proof of payment, and I'll shut up. #deathrow #Snoop Dogg." Later, Suge posted another image, purportedly showing Snoop's wife with another man on vacation, adding fuel to the fire. He wrote, "You pray for me, Snoop Dogg? Okay, I'll pray your wife stop going to Hawaii with other men. #Snoop Dogg #boss lady." Continuing his attack, Suge referred to Snoop as a fake Crip in another post, sharing a video of Snoop threatening someone over unpaid debts. Suge criticized Snoop's behavior, implying that it contradicted his public image. He wrote, "If you only could act like this when the camera rolling Snoop Dogg. #Snoop Dogg #underdog #fake Crip." Knight also discussed how he allegedly saved Snoop Dogg from a potential life sentence. Knight boldly claimed, If it weren't for me, Snoop would still be in prison doing life, as he recounted the events leading up to Snoop's notorious trial. Back in 1993, Snoop Dogg and his former bodyguard Malik faced serious charges related to the death of Philip Little Smooth Woldemariam in Los Angeles. Detailing the legal strategy, Knight recalled a crucial moment. The lawyer said, "Well, the bodyguard has a 9mm, so we can't say he protected Snoop and shot the guy. Snoop had a .380. I said, we'll be in trouble if the bodyguard had a .380 and Snoop had a 9mm and he got shot with a .380, right? He got shot with a 9mm. Knight continued to explain his intervention, claiming to have spent $6 million to resolve various issues. This included settling a blackmail attempt within Snoop's circle and even consulting a private investigator to handle matters. According to Knight, this intervention led to the destruction of an alleged incriminating tape. Furthermore, Suge Knight has raised doubts about the legitimacy of Snoop Dogg's control over Death Row Records. In an audio recording released by TMZ in April 2023, Knight discussed Snoop's ownership and suggested that it might have involved criminal activities. He particularly pointed fingers at Michael Harry O. Harris, a convicted kingpin and early supporter of Death Row Records, alleging bankruptcy fraud. Knight strongly argues against the sale of Death Row Records, claiming it was illegal and accusing Harris and his associates of fraudulent behavior. He believes that the label rightfully belongs to him and the black community, rejecting any attempts to transfer ownership to others. Despite Snoop Dogg's announcement in February 2022 that he had acquired Death Row Records through a deal with MNRK Music Group, Knight remains steadfast in his claim to the label. He asserts, "I am Death Row. Suge Knight is Death Row," demonstrating his unwavering commitment to the label's legacy. More recently, Suge Knight has made accusations against Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Sean Diddy Combs, suggesting that they are part of a secret society. Knight made these claims on the latest episode of his Collect Call podcast, released by Breakbeat Media on March 9th. He alleged that these artists were influenced and controlled by powerful forces beyond themselves. Knight, who is currently serving a prison sentence for manslaughter, spoke about alleged public displays of affection within this group, suggesting it was evidence of their involvement in this supposed secret society. He recalled instances where Diddy received extravagant gifts from Andre Harrell and rapper The Game, which he found suspicious. According to Knight, such gestures were indications of deeper connections within the music industry. Snoop Dogg responded to Knight's claims by sharing an all-hip-hop report on social media with laughing and shrugging emojis, seemingly expressing amusement and disbelief at Knight's assertions. The trial of Dwayne "Keffi D. Davis, a former accused of involvement in the eliminating of rapper 2Pac Shakur, has been postponed by several months. Originally scheduled for June, Davis's trial has been rescheduled to begin on November 4th. This delay comes after a recent change in Davis's legal representation and ongoing exchanges of evidentiary material between the prosecution and defense. Davis, believed to be the only surviving individual present in the vehicle from which shots were fired in the incident that claimed Tupac's life on September 7, 1996, has been incarcerated since his arrest in September. His bail is set at $750,000, and his lawyer, Carl Arnold, anticipates being able to secure the necessary 10% for a bond to facilitate Davis's release to house arrest. During a recent court hearing, Davis expressed difficulty in securing bail due to concerns about media attention and public scrutiny. He indicated that family members willing to assist with bail were hesitant to appear in court for fear of being caught up in the media frenzy surrounding the case. As a result of these ongoing developments, Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney acknowledged the challenges and agreed to postpone the trial until November 4th. Davis took a significant risk by discussing his involvement in the M publicly. Despite this, he seemed confident that he was in the clear, facing only the threat of old enemies' inaccurate aim, media scrutiny, and retired law enforcement officials seeking to promote their memoirs. One such individual was Greg Kading, a former LAPD detective, who authored a memoir in 2011 titled M-Rap, The Untold Story of the Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur M Investigations. In his book, Kading portrays Davis as self-aggrandizing and questions his credibility, labeling him a legend in his own mind and highlighting his past as a convicted felon and confessed liar. Kading emphasizes that Davis's reliability as a witness would be challenged in a legal setting. Davis's involvement in the investigation stemmed from a Queen for a Day agreement, also known as a proffer, orchestrated by Kading and his colleagues. This agreement allowed Davis to provide truthful information about various crimes, including his involvement in activities and knowledge of the M's of 2Pac and Biggie, without fear of direct prosecution for the information disclosed. Despite the protection provided by the proffer agreement, Davis faced the risk of self-incrimination if he spoke publicly about the crimes discussed during the proffer. Nevertheless, he agreed to the proffer to protect not only himself, but also his family and associates. Kading's book didn't impress the Las Vegas detectives in charge of 2Pac's case. Some claimed they didn't know about the proffer agreement. Despite this, Kading worked on a documentary in 2015 with filmmaker Mike Dorsey, including recordings of Davis discussing the shooting. Davis showed no remorse for his actions, confident no one would hear his conversation outside the room. He bragged about trying to harm 2Pac and Knight for a supposed $1 million payoff from Bad Boy Records CEO Combs, also known as Puff Diddy. Initially, Las Vegas law enforcement stayed silent on the documentary. Questions arose. Was it the content or the creator that irked them? True crime author Kathy Scott, following 2Pac's case since the start, suspects both. Kading is all about publicity and taking credit for things. But the problem for Kading was he's no longer a police officer and hasn't been for years, Scott says. He was trying to get either the LAPD or Metro to sign on with him to get the investigation done. He went to Vegas to talk to Metro. He called me at the time and asked for advice. He was all hyped up and had also reached out to the DA's offices in both LA and Vegas. Kading sought collaboration with LAPD and Vegas police, but faced hurdles. By 2018, their work transformed into the TV series Unsolved, The M's of 2Pac and the Notorious Big, with Josh Duhamel portraying Kading. Despite surviving cancer and past troubles, Dwayne Davis broke his silence, agreeing to interviews for the BT series Death Row Chronicles. This surprised Kading and Dorsey, given the risks involved. Rap mogul Marion Suge Knight, who was also injured in the shooting that claimed 2Pac's life, is now 58 years old and serving time in prison for an unrelated crime committed in the Los Angeles area in 2015. Dwayne Keffy D. Davis, aged 60, was arrested outside his home in Henderson, Nevada, but originally hails from Compton, California. He has pleaded not guilty to first-degree M charges. If convicted, he could face a life sentence in prison. Tupac Shakur, renowned for his contributions to rap music, achieved significant success during his lifetime, with 5 #1 albums, 6 Grammy Award nominations, and induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017. Additionally, he was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2023. Now we have only the memory of 2Pac. Do you think there is more to his M than currently being let on? Let us know in the comments.